Triadic trouble against Matt, Nick, Sharon and Victoria's vengeful trap set. The Young and the Restless spoilers reveal that Nick Newman will get some news that leaves him seething during the week of February 23rd to 27th. Victor Newman will make an advertisement that riles Nick over and makes him determined to recapture control of the situation. When Victor handed Matt Clark over to the Bobbies, he felt confident Matt would be locked down for good. Victor let Matt live, so he presumably allowed the justice system would take care of Nick's longtime adversary and that his family would be defended. Unfortunately, Matt will prove his one slippery character once he ever scores his release. Matt will be free to go wherever he wants, so Nick will flip out and worry he's going to target the Newman clan formally again. Since Nick will refuse to let his family land in detriment's way, he'll scheme with Sharon Newman in the coming occurrences. Sharon loathes Matt just as important as Nick, so they'll put their heads together on a plan to stop their old foe formally and for all. Noah Newman may want to help, but Nick and Sharon may push him to just keep himself safe considering everything Matt formally put him through. Still, Noah will fret over Sienna Bacall's well-being when she comes back to Genoa City. It'll leave Noah upset about Matt targeting Sienna, so he may make it his charge to keep her safe while Sharon and Nick's plot moves forward. Y&R spoilers for February 27th say Victoria Newman will pitch in on Nick's trap, so she may get in on the action, too. Since Victoria doesn't want Matt hurting their family either, she may do her part to shut him down. After all, Victor could be a vengeance target as well since he stole Matt's fortune and eventually delivered him to the police. Victoria has formerly been concerned about Victor's health due to all this Newman preemption drama. The last thing Victor needs is Matt going after him as well, so Victoria may join forces with Nick and Sharon to stop him. The Young and the Restless spoilers suggest Matt will face a triadic trouble if Sharon, Nick and Victoria each buy on this plot against him. In the ever-churning world of The Young and the Restless, where power plays are as common as morning coffee at Crimson Lights and fidelity is tested at every commercial boardroom table in Genoa City, the week of February 23rd to 27th explodes with a plot that feels both classic and lately combustive, a triple war brewing against Matt Clark, as Nick Newman, Sharon Newman, and Victoria Newman align in a calculated, deeply particular trap that threatens to reshape the emotional and political geography of the Newman dynasty. The catalyst comes in the form of a move by Victor Newman, an announcement, bold and unmistakably strategic, that sends a ripple of fury through his son Nick Newman. For Victor, it's business as usual, a public assertion of dominance, a memorial to adversaries and abettors likewise that the Newman name remains untouchable. But for Nick, the timing is inflammatory. He'd believed, innocently, as it turns out, that the Matt Clark chapter had closed when Victor handed Matt over to the authorities. Victor had chosen not to exclude him outright. Rather, he placed faith in the justice system, confident that captivity walls and legal consequences would contain a man who had spent times plaguing the Newman family. In Victor's mind, that was mercy balanced with pragmatism. In Nick's mind, it was a threat that has now come roaring back to life. When news breaks that Matt Clark has secured his release, the atmosphere shifts incontinently from uneasy calm to brewing storm. Nick's response is visceral, not simply defensive but deeply wounded by history. Matt isn't just an adversary. He's a long-standing personification of chaos, manipulation, and particular vendetta. The study of Matt roving free, of him walking the same thoroughfares as the Newman children, of him breathing the same air as Victor, ignites a fire in Nick that indeed times of remedy and tone reflection can't extinguish. He paces his living room, phone in hand, jaw gripped as he renewals every history battle, every moment where Matt slipped through the cracks of responsibility. Nick refuses to be blindsided again. This time, he won't stay for Victor to orchestrate a grand chess move. This time, he intends to take control himself. The first person he turns to is Sharon Newman. Their history is concentrated with heartache, conciliation, co-parenting triumphs, and moping emotional swings, but when it comes to guarding their family, they operate with nearly telepathic consanity. Sharon's abomination for Matt isn't theatrical. It's embedded in lived trauma. She remembers the fear, the manipulation, the way Matt's schemes once hovered the stability she fought so hard to rebuild. When Nick shares the news of Matt's release, Sharon doesn't rustle in shock. She goes quiet, and that silence speaks volumes. It's the stillness of someone calculating, someone who understands that survival in Genoa City frequently requires preemptive action. Together, they begin mapping out possibilities: surveillance, legal loopholes, strategic bait. Nick wants decisive force. Sharon urges perfection. She knows Matt thrives on emotional reactions, however. They must do it in a way that leaves him no room to slide down, if they're going to trap him. Meanwhile, the ripple effect touches the coming generation. Noah Newman, formerly scarred by former run-sways with Matt's web of dishonesty, senses the pressure before anyone formally tells him. He insists on being involved, arguing that he refuses to live in fear or be sidelined while his parents shoulder the burden. Nick, still, draws an establishment boundary. He's seen what Matt's influence did to Noah before: the emotional fermentation, the trust issues, the near destruction of connections. Sharon sides with Nick on this point, though it pains her to do so. Guarding Noah means keeping him out of the crossfire. Indeed, if that means enduring his resentment. Yet Noah's defensive instincts enkindle when he learns that Sienna Bacall is returning to Genoa City. The idea that Matt could target Sienna as influence is unsupportable to him, however. He'll produce his own charge guarding Sienna, shadowing her movements, if his parents won't let him join their trap. His alert adds another subcast of pressure, because the further players involved, the more changeable the outgrowth becomes. Enter Victoria Newman, who originally approaches the situation from a commercial and strategic viewpoint but snappily realizes the trouble is deeply particular. Victoria has been decreasingly concerned about Victor's health amid the ongoing Newman Enterprises power struggles. Stress has a cost, and the study of Matt resurfacing, especially given that Victor stripped him of his fortune and handed him over to law enforcement, raises the specter of retribution. Victoria knows Matt's pride is wounded. A man like that doesn't walk down still. He plots. He waits. He strikes where it hurts most. When Nick outlines his developing plan, Victoria doesn't vacillate. She may disaccord with her family in boardrooms, but when it comes to external pitfalls, blood binds them tighter than any commercial contest could divide them. The Triple Alliance forms not in a dramatic protestation but in a participated understanding during a late-night meeting at the Newman estate. The fire crackles in the domicile as they speak in hushed but violent tones. Nick outlines the shell of the trap, lure Matt into believing he has influence, maybe through a false fiscal occasion or a fabricated rift within the family, also document his illegal maneuvering. Sharon suggests using controlled information leaks, exploiting Matt's coercion to subsidize on perceived weakness. Victoria offers commercial coffers, private investigators, cybersecurity brigades, discreet legal counsels. Icing every step is backed by substantiation that can hold up in court. This won't be a vigilante takedown. It'll be watertight, ruinous, and final. Yet beneath the strategic planning lies emotional turnabout. Nick struggles with the weight of defying Victor's original approach. Victor believed the system would handle Matt. By orchestrating this trap, Nick is implicitly admitting that his father's strategy failed. Sharon senses that internal conflict and gently reminds Nick that guarding family occasionally means rewriting the rules. Victoria, realistic as ever, frames it else this isn't about proving Victor wrong. It's about evolving the Newman defense playbook. The generational shift is palpable. Victor erected an conglomerate through dominance and fear. Nick, Sharon, and Victoria are trying commodity further: surgical, controlled exposure, calculated ruse. As Matt enters Genoa City, his presence is nearly theatrical in its slyness. He doesn't storm into Newman Enterprises making pitfalls. Rather, he appears at public venues, offering fascinating grins, shaking hands, reminding everyone that he's a free man. The audacity infuriates Nick. Matt's confidence suggests he believes he's untouchable. Maybe he assumes the Newmans are too fractured by internal drama to mount a unified front. That supposition becomes his fatal misapprehension. Behind unrestricted doors, the triad synchronizes their sweats. Sharon arranges a putatively chance hassle, planting the seed of a scuttlebutt that Nick is facing internal opposition at Newman Enterprises. Victoria ensures the scuttlebutt has just enough digital footmark to appear authentic. Nick plays his part to perfection, projecting frustration and vulnerability in public settings where Matt snitches are likely watching. Noah's action intensifies as he murks Sienna's return. Their reunion is bittersweet, laced with anxiety. Sienna senses Noah's protectiveness but doesn't yet know the full extent of the peril. When she eventually learns that Matt is free, her countenance falters. She remembers the manipulative charm, the veiled pitfalls. Noah vows that nothing will be to her on his watch, and though he remains outside the primary trap, his alert becomes an emotional anchor in the plot, youthful love tested by inherited adversaries. The trap tightens gradationally. Matt, induced that Nick is slavering from his father and family, approaches him with a proposition disguised as conciliation. He hints at bigwig knowledge, dangles the possibility of reclaiming lost power together. What Matt doesn't realize is that every discussion is being proved, every meeting offered under the vigilant eyes of investigators. Sharon's part becomes vital when she subtly provokes Matt into revealing his resentment toward Victor. In a moment of pride-driven candor, he outlines plans that cross legal lines, plans that, once captured, will ensure he can't wriggle free again. Victoria's donation proves decisive. She coordinates with legal authorities still, icing that when the hammer falls, it falls hard and clean. There will be no oddities, no early release loopholes. The substantiation package is comprehensive: fiscal fraud, conspiracy, tried compulsion. Nick feels the pressure coil tighter with each passing day, knowing that one misstep could cock Matt off. Sharon remains the emotional compass, reminding him to stay measured. Victoria maintains the commercial guard, icing their conduct remain defensible. As the climax approaches, Victor senses movement indeed before he's completely briefed. Though originally skeptical of Nick's independent maneuvering, he begins to fate the complication of the plan. There's a flicker of pride in his eyes, a consummation that his children have inherited not just his ruthlessness but his strategic brilliance. When Matt eventually takes the bait fully, trying to execute a scheme that would destabilize Newman Enterprises, authorities intermediate fleetly. The arrest is public this time, inarguable, backed by irrefragable evidence. Matt's expression shifts from trim triumph to stupefied unbelief as the trap snaps shut. In the fate, the Newman family gathers formally more at the estate. The palm isn't celebratory but relieved. Nick feels the weight lift from his shoulders, though he knows Genoa City infrequently grants endless peace. Sharon stands beside him, their participated resoluteness stronger than ever. Victoria exchanges a knowing regard with her family, an implied acknowledgement that when united, they're redoubtable. Victor, ever the primogenitor, offers a measured nod. He may have started the battle, but his children finished it. The triple trouble that formerly impended as a trouble has converted into a testament to evolved strategy and domestic consanity. In true youthful and the restless fashion, the plot blends commercial conspiracy, romantic pressure, generational conflict, and high-stakes vengeance into a shade that feels both explosive and intimate. Matt Clark's slippery adaptability met its match not in brute force, but in accompanied cunning. And as Genoa City exhales, one verity becomes clear: when Nick, Sharon, and Victoria align with purpose, indeed the most fugitive adversary doesn't stand a chance. As the dust settles shortly over Genoa City in The Young and the Restless, the vision of calm is as fragile as ever. Matt Clark's public arrest may have delivered an important statement, but in a city where grievances raise and alliances shift like beach, calm is infrequently absolute. For Nick Newman, the triumph feels less like festivity and more like a temporary exhale. He knows men like Matt don't simply vanish, they acclimatize, they appeal, they exploit oddities. The memory of how fluently Matt secured his former release gnaws at him, and indeed as the Newman family regroups at the estate, Nick's instincts remain on high alert. Sharon Newman senses that alert in him incontinently. The night after Matt is taken down, she finds Nick standing alone on the estate yard, gaping out into the darkness beyond the rolling fields. The wind cuts through the quiet, but Nick slightly seems to notice. Sharon approaches gently, understanding that the battle they fought together has restarted old injuries. For times, Sharon has worked to make stability, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Matt's return hovered all of that. His manipulation had formally entangled her life in ways she still struggles to articulate. The idea that he could formally again destabilize her family was intolerable. Yet indeed with him behind bars, Sharon knows trauma doesn't evaporate just because the trouble is contained. Their discussion is honest, stripped of bravado. Nick admits that part of his fury wasn't just about guarding the Newman conglomerate, it was about guarding Sharon. About guarding Noah. About precluding history from repeating itself. Sharon confesses that while she's proud of how they handled Matt, she fears what the experience awakened inside them. The strategic deception, the calculated baiting, the amenability to operate in moral Argentine areas, it all felt necessary. But it also felt dangerously close to the ruthless tactics they've both blamed in Victor Newman for decades. Inside the estate, Victoria Newman reviews final legal briefings with the family's attorneys. She's thorough. Icing every piece of substantiation gathered against Matt is watertight. Financial records, recorded exchanges, substantiation testaments, there can be no loose ends. Victoria understands more than anyone that commercial warfare frequently bleeds into particular vendettas. Matt's resentment over losing his fortune and being intimately lowered by Victor was no way just about plutocrat, it was about pride. And wounded self-esteem in Genoa City have a way of crumping unpredictably. Victoria's concern isn't limited to Matt. She watches her father precisely. Victor presents his usual composed surface, but the strain of recent events is visible in subtle ways, the tightening of his jaw, the slight earthquake in his hand when he sets down his drink. The Newman primogenitor thrives on control. Matt's temporary freedom represented a crack in that control, and Victor doesn't tolerate cracks. Victoria gently suggests that maybe it's time for him to delegate more, to trust that she and Nick can handle pitfalls without him carrying the entire burden. Victor listens, expression undecipherable. For him, stepping back has no way been simple. Meanwhile, Noah Newman struggles with his own emotional fallout. His decision to guard Sienna Bacall was driven by love and fear in equal measure. Indeed, after Matt's arrest, Noah finds himself checking his phone obsessively, surveying crowds for strange faces, replaying worst-case scripts in his mind. Sienna notices. One evening at Crimson Lights, she gently confronts him. She appreciates his protectiveness, but she doesn't want to live under a pall of paranoia. Her return to Genoa City was meant to be a fresh launch, not a durability of once terror. Noah's internal conflict becomes one of the most mortal vestments in the fate. He wants to prove he's strong enough to handle pitfalls without hiding behind his parents. Yet he also recognizes that his hypervigilance could suffocate the veritably relationship he's trying to cover. In a vulnerable moment, he confides in Sharon. She listens without judgment, reminding him that courage isn't about barring fear, it's about managing it. The Newman heritage can feel like armor, but it can also feel like a target painted on one's back. As legal proceedings against Matt move forward, cracks begin appearing in unanticipated places. A minor substantiation recants part of their evidence. A piece of digital substantiation is challenged by Matt's defense platoon as inaptly attained. Victoria's jaw tightens when she hears the news. She incontinently convenes a strategy session with Nick and Sharon. The trap worked, but maintaining the conviction will bear equal tenacity. They see and assume the system will carry the rest of the weight without resistance. Nick's frustration resurfaces. He'd hoped the arrest marked the end. Rather, it feels like a new phase of combat. Sharon, ever perceptive, warns him not to let wrathfulness pull his judgment. Matt would delight any sign that he's destabilizing them again. The triad recommits to consinity. No impulsive moves. No public outbursts. Every action measured. Victor, observing from the fringe, ultimately processed Nick to his office at Newman Enterprises. The discussion is concentrated with generational pressure. Victor acknowledges the effectiveness of the trap, grudgingly at first, also with unmistakable pride. But he also questions whether Nick is prepared for the long game. Men like Matt, Victor says unevenly, don't fight fair. They look for weakness. Nick meets his father's aspect. Without recoiling. Also, we don't give him any. The exchange marks a subtle shift. For maybe the first time, Victor sees his son not as a reactive force, but as a strategist in his own right. The cane of defense is passing, not entirely, but enough to gesture elaboration. Outside the Newman route, whispers ripple through Genoa City. Some respect the family's adaptability. Others begrudge the apparent ease with which they orchestrate issues. Adversaries watch precisely. In this city, power vacuums invite opportunists. With Matt enthralled in courtrooms, lower rivals test boundaries, commercial pushes, media rumors, stock oscillations finagle to exploit distraction. Victoria handles the commercial side with surgical focus. She delegates aggressively, tightens security protocols, and counters negative press with calculated translucency. Her leadership style, formally